right, hello. I'm Brian Luoma, and this is the Philippine Business Playbook podcast. We have here with me Scott Mesh of Los Niños Services, a good friend of mine. We've known each other for a very long time at this point. And when I was thinking about people to come in and talk about their team in the Philippines and how they set it up, how they maybe overcame some of their initial concerns or whatever, and have a thriving, successful team in the Philippines, I thought about Scott. And Scott has actually been very gracious to provide some poetry readings and stuff like that for the team during Mental Health Day to scratch your poetry itch. And so he's gotten to know a lot of our team members, even beyond your own personal team. And so that's cool. And I figured you would be a great person to come in and give maybe a unique aspect of what having a team in the Philippines is like, and how you run it, how you manage it, and what your experience has been like. So, Scott, thank you. Welcome to the big podcast, maybe to tell the viewers a little bit about Los Niños Services and how we got here.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for the invite, Brian.
Yeah.
Delighted to be here with you. And our friendship goes back, and also our discussion about outsourcing goes way back.
Yes, it's several cocktail hours.
So that could be interesting for people, because I was kind of reluctant. It took a long time. When I bought my first car, the dealer, who was the head of the dealership, said, "Do you ever leap before you look?"
You are,
and he didn't mean it as a compliment. So yeah, we went way back on that. But in terms of me, so I'm a psychologist, and met my wife.
Some might say you overanalyzing.
Some might say that. Some might say that. Met my wife, also a psychologist, had the same dream. So we started a company, Los Niños Services, in our studio apartment at the time, and to help young kids with autism and special needs. So we did home care for a long time, and then about 10 years ago, we started acquiring some other small companies. So we acquired 4. We have about 300 staff. And we've been fortunate to be recognized, Best Company Awards over the years. And we have an administrative team of about 26. So looking to do great things with kids, changing lives. Sure. And I've learned a few things from the Entrepreneurs Organization.
Yep.
So many speakers, great people, reading, attending. And I appreciated what you shared with me about outsourcing.
Okay.
If you want to continue on that.
Yeah. What did I say? I have no idea.
Well, you were,
This is probably
the thing about
10 years ago, maybe.
The thing about you, I don't know if you realize this.
You put me on the couch here, I think.
You are like Mr. Humble. So I was like, hey, what about outsourcing? Somebody's like, I'll talk to Brian. I'm like, hey, Brian, what is this outsourcing thing? So you told me what you were doing, and you were like really low key about it. It's like, you can hire people there.
I'm a terrible sales guy. That's the point of this story.
That is what happened. That is exactly what happened. Okay. So this was before Tahche.
Yes.
And I was like, tell me how to do it. She's like, put an ad, whatever. How much do you pay? You're like, okay, well, $5, $7 an hour or something like that. And then, I guess I could keep going on the story. So
I'm liking it.
So, so I'm analyzing, thinking about and the risk, and what about another country, and how do you deal with meeting them, and,
cultural. I know you're a really big concern about company culture, and
we're big on culture.
Yeah.
So we got these culture awards.
Yeah.
So, all right. So finally, I settle in, pandemic, and we're like, Brian, I think we need to do this. And meanwhile, I'm a researcher. So I checked around, I'm sorry to tell you, but you're not the only outsourcing people. So I was like checking all this stuff. And, I really liked what you did because you had a different model.
Okay.
So other models, they're like, here's the price, that's it. I like a single price, but what you said is you have an administrative fee. So when you increase the people, they just keep getting increases.
Yeah.
I don't want the same fee because that means that when they increase, the other companies are negatively incentivizing themselves because they don't want people getting raises.
Their
margin goes down.
It's all about margin.
I thought that was really brilliant. So we are interested in longevity. So we've had some people that are with us. Oh my God, I hate to admit it on air, like 25 years.
Wow.
So this
and you have to give them a raise every once in a while.
You have to give them a raise every once in a while.
That's the way it works.
But we started out, the first hire was absolutely slam dunk. So I was like, yeah, we need somebody. I'm doing this. I'm converting from these conferences.
That's right. I remember you saying
1,500 people coming from 20 countries around the world. We were rated a top 5 early childhood conference. In the United States, there's a few hundred of them. I need somebody to organize. We got to do webinars.
That's right.
All right.
Yeah.
So what do I need? Somebody who probably was like maybe a teacher, somebody has administrative skills.
It was a unique position because you're doing childhood development.
Right.
But this is like conferences and webinars and childhood. So I remember this now because you were saying I need somebody that has the teaching or works with children, but also
knows about it.
Yeah, also understands the technical. And so I was like, all right, that's going to be a challenge for the talent acquisition team.
Wasn't your typical hire?
It's not it's not somebody you could just take the top resume off the list and say here you go
out of the 100 or whatever.
Yeah, right.
So, but then, and I was like, maybe a grad degree, maybe. You found me the most unbelievable person. So Carrie is tremendous. Hey, maybe I shouldn't give the information. I don't want anybody calling her.
Carrie is amazing.
Yes. She's really, I mean.
So sweet too. I've met her a few times now.
So one of the things that I love about the Philippines, so I've known Filipino people before, and the culture for us is a perfect fit because Los Niños, so Latin, and also I'm Jewish. So we kind of got the both sides of it, right? But what
I'll let you explain what that means. I'm not going to touch that.
I think that'll take a couple of podcasts to get into all the juicy details.
Yeah.
But, we share, my wife and I share a lot of common values. And they're similar with the values of Filipinos. So hardworking, really pleasant, great relationships, eager to please, do things well. So I've really had such a great experience, not just with Carrie, who I started webinars with from, this is 4 years ago now. It took us 2 years just to go through. We built 5 websites.
Wow.
Tore them down, look for the right learning management system. It was a huge process.
Wow.
But now, fast forward, last 2 years, we did 50 webinars recorded on the website. And Carrie, I think we're going to have to do this. Oh, okay. Well, I guess we'll have to redo all this stuff. Okay, no problem.
So what was her experience? I cut you off. Yeah. What was her experience that made her a perfect fit for this?
She was exactly what we asked. She had been a teacher for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then she was promoted to do administrative things. One of the things I asked her in the interview is if she had any graphic experience. She's like, I just kind of do that on the side. I'm interested. So I was like, show me a couple of things.
Yeah.
So she did. They were very good.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I recommend in terms of hiring, so I've done a lot of hiring.
Sure.
Hundreds of people.
Sure.
Follow top grading.
Yep.
Actually do some consulting with them. But, testing. Not just asking. So I asked her to show me, And then the key thing is how people take feedback, which is the same thing as how eager they are to learn. If you don't listen, you don't learn. So we used to hire people. One of the most important thing was open to feedback. But there's something that's higher than that.
Okay.
Seeks feedback.
So asking for help.
Yeah, absolutely. If you think about Olympic athletes, you know, they don't want to have you blow smoke anywhere. You know,
right?
They want
tell me what to do.
They want to know only one thing: what do I have to do to get better? So, you know, Carrie's like totally cool with that, and actually, all your people. You know, just really all the higher up folks that I've dealt with, recruitment, you know, everybody just fantastic attitude, pleasant, but wants to do a great job, wants to get the job done.
I know that when you guys are adding people to your team, you really have a really good handle on what you're looking for.
Yes.
And I know the talent acquisition team is really appreciative that you're really involved in the process, and you know you really are have a good understanding of what you want and are good at providing that direction, so that when we provide people, it's not kind of like, I think this is what they want. We're like, we know this is what they want, and I think the success rate that you have as a result of that is a direct correlation to that well thought out hiring process that you have that our talent acquisition team executes on, but it really, I think it works well for what you guys do.
Well, I appreciate it. That's one of my areas of expertise is hiring. From the psychology thing, I got assessment,
sure.
But I got psychological assessment. I didn't get employment assessment. That was sort of like on the job training. But I did learn from Brad Smart, who's the father of top grading.
Okay.
The only validated research-based process, which proves that you can hire over 80% A players rather than the typical maybe 50% of the time.
Yeah, and I think that so many firms, when they're hiring, especially in the VA side, it's just when you're doing margins, you got to find people at the lowest possible level so you can make money on that
right.
margin. And so it's just whatever resume is top next on the list, that's the one that you hand out to the next client. And you hear about all the churn rate, not only with the clients leaving because they're frustrated, but then also the employees leaving because they're not happy with the position that they're in. It's like, I didn't know this is what I was signing up for. I didn't, the fit. The fit is not
what
right.
It's all.
And you look at our churn rate, not only with the clients, which is really good, but also on the employees. I'm very proud that our the voluntary attrition rate of our employees is well under 1% per month. And so that's
fantastic.
When you're in a BPO industry that is 40% a year, 4 or 5 times higher than that.
Yeah.
I think that means we're doing something right.
Absolutely.
And having clients like you dovetails to that, because then it makes it a lot easier.
Well, I appreciate what you said, and fit is the key. It's a match. Match.com kind of.
Sure. Yeah.
But for employment, and that means the person and the job. So if you're not super clear on the job and the culture, you can't do the match.
Yeah.
You got to know the person, but you got to be super clear on what you're looking for.
Yeah. One thing I teased at earlier was you doing the poetry readings for the. Can you just explain to the? I should have asked you to bring a poem for our podcast here, but I didn't. I didn't prep you for that.
I have plenty. I'm happy to do so.
But, why did you do that? What is the feedback you got from your team, the Philippine side locally? I know that our team is always tickled. They're like, Scott wants to do another poetry reading, and they're like, oh, it's so awesome. And there's it's like a appointment scheduling now for some of the employees. So just explain to the people because I think it's so unique what you're doing, and I love it.
Well, what happened is, I was always interested in poetry. I wrote a little bit as a teenager, studied a little bit in college, wrote a couple of poems for people here and there. Mm-hmm. But during the pandemic, I also loved teaching. I taught at Queens College before Los Niños, and then we started the company 26 years ago. I couldn't do both, really. And plus evaluate kids. Yeah. Like 500 evaluations a year. So I had a knockout. But during the pandemic, I told my family, this is going to be a while. Like, how are we going to use this time that's been given to us?
Okay. So it was like a family activity.
So all of us went around with our goals. So my goal was to spend 10 minutes a day writing something, like a teaching moment.
Sure.
So within 2 years, it turned into a poetic teaching moment. So now I have about 600 poems and a book that'll be coming out called called Tapas.
Okay.
Short, tasty poems.
There you go. Tapas. I like it.
Yeah, tapas, like tasty.
Yeah. I understand. Yeah.
So, it's kind of my way of sharing things that I've learned in a kind of a different way.
Yeah.
And it's all about communication, which also relates to performance in general, but especially as a leader. Because as a leader, we don't have a lot of time with people. And if we want our message, especially to resonate and to be memorable and acted upon, it needs to be short. And then something else that helps memory is rhymes.
Okay.
So we remember songs.
Right.
Part of it's the music, but part of it is the rhyme.
So use poetry in teaching and training your team? I mean, I know
a little bit.
Okay.
I've been using it more, like edutainment.
Sure. Yeah.
But sure, there's different teaching poems and stuff.
To me, I thought that one of the really important things in succeeding with your team overseas or any team overseas is having that connection and not, bringing them into the fold, if you will, and having them be part of your team and experiencing the culture of your company, whatever that is. And for me, seeing how you're writing these poems and you're doing the poetry readings and everything, I am not at all surprised then when I speak to your employees at the company parties and and everything, and they're talking about how much they love you and love working for Los Niños.
Nice. That's nice.
Just like,
okay, can you turn off the video now? I'm blushing.
So like over the moon about it, and it's because of the connection that you build, I think, through things like this. And I'm sure that's not not everyone can write poetry, but that's your thing, that what you do, and other people can find other ways to try and connect, with their employees. And so I wanted to commend you on that because I think that's great.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that's really the core idea. And if I could riff on that for a minute.
Yeah, please.
So, I always thinking about what are these small little ideas that can resonate with our team. And I was preparing for our annual orientation at our super center in Westchester. And, I thought, our kids have autism and other special needs. They have trouble connecting, communicating,
sure. Yep.
and coordinating. I was playing that one out, talking to people, trying to give them like a little visual, little visual on it. And then also the words, 3 C's. Okay, maybe they'll, it'll stick. But, as I was kind of working this with our group, I realized that people in general, like us adults, we really need to connect, like you said.
Yeah.
And communicate.
Yep.
and coordinate. So I was like, maybe this is a good mantra in general, especially in an organization for teamwork. And, if you don't connect, it's...
You're spending
yeah.
how many, a third of your life maybe,
Yeah.
during those that working time with these people. You might as well enjoy your time together,
So that simple idea that you really crystallized to me runs through effective leadership, team building, and relationships, any kind of relationship. So at the beginning of meetings, something real simple, just like, all right, who has good news? And, we go around, just, a little thing.
Yep.
Oh, my kid just got an A, or was the student of the month.
Right.
It's like, wow, cool. So it doesn't take very long.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how just a tiny bit of time really makes a huge difference.
Yep.
So poetry's cool. I do have both if you want to hear it, but yeah.
Yeah. I've been thinking about that, as you've done, these poetry readings, and I thought that was, really, really a neat thing. And then, in speaking with your employees, it kind of resonated with me, because I'm always telling my clients, just really, treat them like you would your own team, and hopefully you're doing good stuff with your team. That's why you're successful and trying to grow, and figure out ways to do that same connection, whether it's the good news at the start of the meeting, or whatever other strategies you have to try and bring your team together. So what is some tips you might have for somebody that's thinking about starting a team in the Philippines? Concerns they might have, and like how did you tackle that, and like what would you maybe put your coaching hat on?
I did the
put
research.
Your coaching hat on, and
Yeah.
what would you tell somebody that's like, hey, I'm thinking about starting a team in the Philippines?
I would say start right away.
That's clear. That's
wait.
clear and direct.
Don't wait. So yeah, I mean, in terms of now, like, after the pandemic, Zoom's not such a big deal.
Right.
So that's fine. In the pandemic, 26 administrators went virtual. Now we're still virtual first for our core team. Folks in the Philippines, like you said, like their employees, but like implying like Tahche was like different. And I don't know if you meant that, or we're talking about how people think about it. I don't think about them as your employees. I mean, legal, technically, yeah. But absolutely. I mean, there are people.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So in terms of questions you have, like, connecting with people, videos. I mean, they probably have done this through the pandemic, or maybe still. So no big deal. In terms of confidentiality, anything, what's the difference, where somebody is. In terms of the hours, people do the hours. We are on East Coast time. People work the East Coast time. They're fine with it. Hasn't been an issue. And, how do you know they're working, or so on? So my question would be, if you don't know if somebody is working, you got to really think again about your performance management.
Yep. Because that is a concern to people. Like, how do I know they're not just sleeping or whatever?
So, you got to know based on the productivity of what's expected. We have, for example, we have Carrie and then operations team. So, like 5 people. So those people need to accomplish certain things, which we measure. So it's very easy to know, like a 400, units approved a day. So if they're doing 200, we're like,
what's going on?
Yeah. So whenever you have things that, you're able to measure, cool. And then also like calling, when I call Carrie,
she picks up.
She picks up the phone. It is rare when she doesn't pick up. And, like anybody, if somebody doesn't pick up, I mean, hey, no, that's not expectations. So like change it or else it's not going to work out.
Yeah. So I know you're doing some coaching now. Tell me about that. When did that start? Why are you doing that now?
Oh, I don't know. I've been doing it for maybe 6-7 years.
Is it that long? Okay.
So yeah, basically, I just love teaching. I love sharing things that I've learned. So work with leaders, CEOs, whatever, of smaller companies. So EO kind of companies up to 10, 20, 30 million, whatever.
Okay.
And just meet with them usually monthly to address their issues. I mean, in terms of, so there's different ways to coach. Some people have these programs they take you through and all of that. Because of my background and my experience now, I have a couple of core areas that I can focus on best. So, for example, culture, hiring, leadership, overall branding, and then I'm a psychologist, but that means I kind of got the technical stuff, like did a lot of data analysis.
Sure.
So I'm kind of up there on that side. So somebody is not sure what's wrong, that's perfect for me.
Yeah.
So you don't have to come in saying, oh, I want this. And then when I start working with somebody, they might be like, well, I want to work with you on this area. But then after I question them,
You kind of...
Yeah, they might be like,
I can see that.
This was really good. I wasn't expecting to get this. I came in with something else, but they're appreciative. So in the coaches that I've had, it's often the things that I don't ask that they maybe point out or question me on that could be the most valuable.
I can see that, how, like, because as a business owner, you're always you're fighting the fight, right? And sometimes you think this is the problem, and oftentimes it's a mental block and it's something else, or whatever. And finding that issue is so key, because you can't solve it until you understand what the issue is.
And then also, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
So, nobody has perfect vision. Nobody has perfect awareness. And when you're at the top of an organization, as it grows, you don't know 90% of what's going on. So, to kind of increase, the vision, maybe take off the blinders a little bit.
Well, I won't get on the couch too much. So what's the future for Los Niños and for you and coaching and the team in the Philippines? What does that future look like for you?
Well, we have a constraint of software, because certain software that they use for billing and operations, can't be accessed overseas. It pisses me off. If we didn't have that constraint, I would probably have our entire operations team under Tahche.
Wow.
Yeah.
We got to figure that out.
Wish I could get around it, but it just can expand as much as the software would allow. But
as Los Niños, it's continuing to grow, and we are. And at this point, I would love to be able to kind of hand it off and do the thing more that I love more than anything, coaching, teaching, speaking, and poetry too. And poetry, I mean, you got a book tour probably.
Gotta fit that in.
Figure out how to fit that in.
Absolutely.
Do you have any plans of going to the Philippines at any point and visiting the team?
I would love to go there. I would love to go there, work-wise, not work-wise. I would beautiful country.
Yeah.
I've scuba dived, all that. So
best scuba in the world, I think.
Super great. Snorkeling, whatever.
Yeah.
But to see the folks, that would be really, really cool. Yeah. Hopefully, within the next year.
whenever you decide to make the plunge, let me know. We will make sure the red carpet is rolled out for you, and it's going to be amazing if you do that. So, any final words for the people? Maybe somebody that's considering it, or if they want to reach out to you or anything like that.
Yeah, more than happy to reach out. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And in terms of the questions that I had to ask my questions, I checked around, hey, I know Brian, I would love to work with him, but is this really, the best thing? And then it worked out great. So, don't hesitate, ask your questions, and take the plunge. I mean, depending on your team, you want to have one person, go for it. You can dip your toe in the water. You don't have to have 5, 10, or 20. Start out with whatever you need. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, hey, not a big deal. Right. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Yep. I do have a regret.
Oh, what's the regret?
Wish I had started a lot earlier. I would have saved a lot of money, and it's been a great experience.
Yeah. Well, Scott, thank you. This is great. I really appreciate it. Everyone, Scott Mesh, the wonderful, amazing Scott Mesh. Look out for his poetry book. I've had samples of it. It's really interesting and fun and different and very cool. So thank you. Any questions or comments, put them down below. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And until next time, I'm Brian Luoma, and this is the Philippine Business Playbook Podcast. Thank you.